Hey, everybody. Let's see, are we live? Let's see. It's Kate Peters, your breakthrough success expert. I just want to make sure this is showing up. I am not seeing it. There we go. All righty. Okay. So, hey, everybody, welcome. And please let me know who's here. Um, let me know where you're from. And got a really, really powerful, actually groundbreaking training for you today. I'm really super excited about. And some of you may know that when I'd say maybe about month and a half into the pandemic, I started offering workshops for hospitals, for frontliners, things like that. And the reason I did is because just seeing all the work they were doing, just how stressed out they were, the doctors, the nurses, the techs, the admins, whether they were in the hospitals, whether they were working from home, short of supplies, working crazy hours, some of them had pay cuts. I mean, just crazy stuff. And then of course, they had to come home and deal with their own lives, like, going to the supermarkets and waiting in line and finding if there's food on the shelves and all that kind of stuff, and the fear if they would get COVID. So all those things kind of going on. And I really felt good about being able to give my time and really help. What I was teaching was stress reduction, and I was teaching things like neuroscience principles and tapping and other mindset techniques to really help them kind of ground and be calmer during all this chaos. And I even started doing this, for companies as well. And one of the reasons I wanted to do it, besides of giving back, but also because I was hearing information, people were kind of describing the pandemic as going through grief. And I looked at what we're going through as much bigger than grief, that grief just kind of encompasses a really small piece of it that's actually much bigger. And I call it a trauma. Like if you've ever heard of like PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and that the grief part was just part of the trauma. And so um, just me personally going through the pandemic, honestly, I would say most of my days are actually pretty good because I have this philosophy that I try to find the opportunity in the challenge. And so most of my days have actually been pretty good. I try to find things, to find the bright side of things, find the good things, find gratitude, positivity, all that. But honestly, I've had some days that I've been sad. I look at all the headlines and all this stuff going on, whether it's, political or social justice or lack of social justice, stuff that's going on in the environment, animals, all those kinds of things. And it just makes me really sad. And quite frankly, sometimes it's almost overwhelming to see all that, because there's just so much going on. And other days I feel very angry. It's kind of like the at least for us in Boston, the pandemic kind of started in the winter. So from the winter to spring to fall to summer, and now we're heading into fall. I mean, we've been going through this pandemic a really long time, and part of me gets kind of angry, and I want to go like, enough is enough. Like I'm done. Like stop the pandemic. I've had enough. I've done all I need to do. Like change. Let's move on to something different. And I get angry thinking about the things I can't do. One of the things I really loved doing was going to the live theater. That's something that my mother kind of instilled in all of us, and we would go as a family. And since she passed, it was a way of being close to her, of going to see all these really wonderful shows. And of course, there's no live theater right now. So, what I want to share to you, first of all, is that even amongst all this trauma, all these different emotions are really, really normal. Whatever you're feeling, the point is that you don't want to stay in the emotions. You want to kind of feel them and then kind of let them flow through you as opposed to letting them stop you. So, I want to talk about this groundbreaking research that I learned about recently because it has so much to do with what we're going through today and really how to help you get through this really successfully. And so one thing I remember when I was trying to think, like in my 20s, and I had an aunt I was very close to, and she was kind of a mentor to me. She and my uncle owned this really savvy marketing company, very successful. And I would occasionally call her up if I was going through, what I would call a trauma. And understand with traumas, there's big traumas and little traumas, and really depends on what your baseline is, which determines what they are. And it just really is based on your own life. So I would call her up and she would say things to me like, hey, just think about how much stronger and how much smarter you're going to be, when you get through this. And she would say this to me, and she'd say it to me the next time. And then finally, like the third or fourth time, I said to her, like, enough is enough. Like, aren't I strong enough and smart enough? Like, how many more of these things do I have to go through? What I was really hoping she would say to me is like, hey, Don't worry, you know, you'll never have to go through anything bad again. Now, in reality, that's not true, right? You know, there's always going to be stuff popping up. That's just how life is. You know, things are going to happen. It's really how you handle them and how you manage them. And that's what this really exciting research is about. So, let me just take a sip of water. So, a lot of you have heard, obviously, the expression PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder. Well, what these psychologists did research on is and they coined this new term called PTG, post traumatic growth. And all the research I thought was so cool because it's all the stuff I've been teaching, but I never knew about the research. And so, what they're talking about is that you can go through a trauma, but you can actually come out stronger and smarter as a result of it. And I thought this was so cool because it's like proven science, proven evidence that yes, this can happen to you. And you know, but you know, there's several different actions that they recommend taking, which is great because it kind of gives you some guidance. And one of the things they talked about was rewriting your narrative of what you're going through. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, like that's exactly what I'm doing in my pivot sessions." And you know, and I hadn't even read this research when I kind of had put them all together. And I thought that was so cool that I'm just like so aligned with this research that has just come out. And so, just as a sideline, if you are interested in a pivot session, you can go to katebeaters.com/pivot. It's a private, kind of like a mini VIP session where we're really going to focus in and hone and help you come out stronger and smarter from all this. So go to katebeaters.com/pivot and you can learn more about it. So, anyways, they had, you know, about 4 or 5 other steps that you need to take. And all these were things that I was planning on taking, you know, with my clients during the pivot sessions. So, what I think is so cool, and this is the message I really wanted to get across to you and why it was worth me putting on lipstick today, you know, because what they shared in their research is that you actually have a propensity to actually go through PTG as opposed to staying stuck in the trauma. And I thought that is so cool because we're so used to the odds being so tiny to have success when you think about it. I remember when I was a flight attendant, I think it was 1 out of every 800 applicants was accepted, you know, to actually become a flight attendant. It was harder to become a flight attendant at that time than it was to get accepted by Harvard Business School. I mean, it was crazy. And, you know, even now, the fact of my success in my business, only 5% of entrepreneurs actually have this type of success. And I also think about my niece. If you've been to my events, I talk about her. And, you know, when she was in high school, she got perfect scores on her SATs. Only something like 225, 26 people in the whole world, students in the whole world, actually get perfect scores each year. And she did, you know, and then she was valedictorian. Again, really small percentage of people do that. She went to an Ivy. She went to Princeton. Again, really small percentage of people get accepted to go to an Ivy and to go to Princeton. She did that. She graduated, you know, very high up in her class. Then she got accepted to do a Fulbright scholarship. She got to go to Spain. Again, really small percentage get to do something like that. As a side note, she got to meet the King of Spain and she had her picture taken with him. The guy is like super handsome, just letting everybody know. He looks like he should be in a movie star. But anyways, she did all that. And now she's starting about another week or so for her PhD at Harvard. Again, really small percentage of people have these successes. So on the flip side, what's so cool about these results for the post-traumatic growth is that the odds are actually in your favor. In other words, you are more likely to have growth than, say, stuck in your trauma than the other way around, as long as you take the steps, right? And that to me is what's so cool because we all know people who kind of stay stuck in their trauma, you know, that they'll sit there and say, oh, you know, don't ever fly such and such an airline because the last time I flew them, you know, we were late and they lost my bags and they landed at the wrong airport. And, you know, they tell you all this stuff. And you would have thought it just happened 2 minutes ago and it happened like 15 years ago. And those are people who get stuck in the trauma. But what these psychologists found from their research is that you are more likely to have growth. Just take these steps. Start with a new narrative, right? And that to me gives me hope that we can just accomplish so much more as we become stronger and smarter and more brilliant. And if I can help you, and if you miss out on the pivot sessions because they're just for a short time, please email my team, info@katebeaters.com. We'll talk about some private coaching. And again, that's info@katebeaters.com. So please think about this. Share this training. This is so important to let people know that the odds are with you, with me, with all of us to grow and to become something even better than we were before. And that to me is really phenomenal and brilliant. So until we meet again, be brilliant.